My guest today is one of the most well-known and accomplished bassists in the world. He's in the band The Winery Dogs with Mike Portnoy and Richie Kotzen. They have a new album out called Hot Streak coming out on October 2nd. I'd like to welcome Billy Sheehan.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for giving me a few minutes. You've been doing a bunch of these interviews today, I guess?
Yeah. We've been they got them stacked up. It's all good.
That's cool. You
We're
know,
very happy.
I spent this past weekend where Mike Portnoy was at this Neil Morse festival thing called Morse Fest. So
he's got his own festival now. Good for him.
yeah, it's a small little thing, but they did it up real nice and played a lot of shows and that type of stuff, which was cool.
Yeah.
Probably a bit similar to the Winery Dogs camp, I guess, right? Because I saw some really cool stuff. You guys play with the fans. What's that whole thing like?
That was a riot. We actually had a great time. It was our second one we did, and it was very, very well attended. And we hang out, play music. There's a bunch of drummers, bass players, singers, guitar players, and we also bring other musician friends of ours along to jump in there with us to give a little bit more variety to the situation. And we have meals together and a great hang. And there's at the place we do it, they have like a little nightclub where we get up and we do our show also. We do 2 shows usually each year. And we played some of the brand new songs off the new record. And then we let the campers be the first people in the public to hear any of the new songs off the new record. So we have at the end, the final event of the camp is where I'm the DJ after the Winery Dogs play. And so I get out on the at the DJ booth that's in the club and start playing a lot of music. And then finally it came to the point where I said, okay, are you ready? We're going to play some new Winery Dogs. And it was great. It was really wonderful. They were very happy that they were the first to hear it. And it was good to see their response too, because we were really, really, really pleased that they enjoyed what we have on the new record.
Yeah, that sounds like a great time. I have also had a chance to check out the new album for the last few days. Fantastic, of course. Really rocks.
Thank you.
The production's phenomenal, the whole thing. You know, coming on to a second album with this, that's usually when a band says, okay, we're here to stay for a while. So when you started this group, did you imagine the success it would have off the first record and that you'd even be doing a second one?
I didn't imagine we would have the kind of success we had, but I did imagine that we were going to stick to it as a band and not just do like a one-off or a project. So though I was thinking album 2 and album 3 hopefully will be in the future, I had no idea that album 1 was going to do what it did. None of us did, really. We always hoped for the best, but I've been in situations, not only situations that were mine, but also seen other people's situations where they get a great record and everything's fantastic, and they put the record out and nothing happens.
Right.
You know? And I've seen horrible records that get put out and the thing blows up all over the place. So it's hard to predict how it's going to happen. I'm a big fan of a lot of music. My iTunes is almost 2 terabytes. I've got a lot of great records by great artists that just never did anything. Never. Just so you never know how it's going to be. So you put your heart and soul in there, and then you roll the dice. And sure enough, on the first record, we got really lucky. And we're very, very pleased that people responded to it the way they did. We played in Brazil, and the record was only out for 2 days in Brazil, and the whole audience sang the entire record along with us so loud we couldn't even hear our own voices singing. It was unbelievable. So the response was just overwhelming.
Yeah, did you find that, Mike coming from sort of a progressive metal and that whole genre, and you have your thing that you've had for a while, and Richie even is maybe more bluesy. Did it kind of, the combination also help with bringing on the different audiences together and maybe exposing, Mike's band discovering Mike's fans rather discovering Richie and vice versa? Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of people were a fan of one guy would be surprised by those other 2 guys he's playing with. So it was all good. We were lucky to get together at this stage of our lives where all of us had been blessed with some degree of success.
Right.
And that was a very, very good thing. So all of us brought things to the table. But I did notice that a lot of people that were into one guy would enjoy this band, even though it wasn't necessarily representative of just Mike, just me, or just Richie, but the people who would come out that normally come out and see me play in other bands enjoyed this very much, and more than I had even expected to. My old friends from back in Buffalo were saying, "Hey man, I think this is the best band you've ever been in." So that was cool. I really appreciated that. So it was good. Yeah, we got some definite cross-referencing there. And Mike really comes from a somewhat progressive background. His real love is basic rock music. I did the Who tribute tour with him, and played on a Rush tribute record with him. But I always worked a lot with friends of mine doing his Beatle tributes and Led Zeppelin tributes, and he loves basic straight up, Beatles, Zeppelin, Who. that's his thing, and so that works out well for me. Though I've been involved in a lot of Prog stuff too. In my early days, when the first Prog first came out, King Crimson, Genesis, bands like that, I was into that a lot in my early years. And I did a tour with Eddie Jobson a few years ago, so I have a band called Niacin, which is pretty progressive, and with Dennis Chambers on drums. So I've been in and out of that myself a little bit. And Richie too, he also did played with Virtu, which is Stanley Clarke and Lenny White, pretty heavy hitter players. Yeah. And Richie was like right in there with them. It's pretty awesome. So we all have a little taste of that. And I think sometimes it shows the Winery Dogs music a little bit. We do throw a few twists and turns in there. We don't make it math rock, but we try to make it give it something interesting too. There's 8 measures go by with nothing happening. People lose my interest. I want to hear something. So we were all kind of feel that way. We didn't want to make it necessarily a prog record, but we want to have elements of everything that all of us were into.
Well, that's a good point that you mentioned, because you guys did the certain album sort of a combination of what your styles are, but in a blues rocky sort of way. With this one, the new album is very much in keeping with the style of the last one. But were there moments when you were writing this one that you felt, okay, let's stretch ourselves a little bit, and then it maybe went into too much, shredding, and you had to scale it back, say, hold on, that's not what this is about?
No, it's kind of it's kind of a natural instinct to. I think because all of us are fans, I think we can kind of tell when we're in an area where, as a fan, I would lose me here.
Right. Okay.
I don't think I would get this, So we kind of all naturally govern ourselves as far as that goes, and nobody has to say to the other guy, hey, tone it down there, or give me more, or whatever else. We kind of naturally all fall into that. We don't have to. Rarely is there anyone saying, maybe this is too much here, or what. We kind of naturally fall into I think what's a good pattern of what we put in songs and how we construct them. There isn't a lot of discussion about it either, really. We just kind of happen. So we don't have to necessarily have someone put a leash on us at this point, but we kind of naturally fall that way.
The first track, Oblivion, I guess went to radio about a week or two ago, and that's one of the heavy hitters on the album, a big shredding kind of song with a killer opening. Was that one of the first songs recorded, or had that song come together?
Well, we actually wrote that song in the middle of our tour last tour we did, and because we were touring for so long, we wanted to have something new in the set for people to come out, because we played pretty much every song on the record. So we wrote that and performed it maybe about 8 or 9 times on tour. And so we kind of had a handle on that one, but it wasn't completed though. Even though we performed it, the version that ended up on the record has a bunch of changes in it as well. We allowed it to evolve, and so then when we recorded it for this record, those changes kind of brought it, added even more new life to it. So I know people, especially if the Dog Can, had heard us play that song before it was recorded, and then we played it in the recording, and they seemed very, very pleased with how it had evolved. And so that was it came about from the tour before, and then got evolved into this record.
Yeah, that song is, you know what, because you're saying you wrote it during that tour, it would have fit on the last record. It's a nice transition, but then, you get into a lot of left turns on this album as well. A couple of songs I wanted to just bring up. One was Ghost Town, which is kind of
One of
really
my
different
favorites.
and really cool. So what's the story behind that one?
That main theme that it opens up with, that started as a little bass thing, and then we just popped into the chord, and as Mike's riding on the drums, keeping time, these chords kind of just happen. And we just sit in the room and put those things together, and came up with some chords that would be more of a chorus thing, and then back into another verse and some other changes and stuff like that. And then Richie started just blah, blah, singing along with it, and eventually turned into a melody that became the lyrics. And I really love what he did with it lyrically and melodically on the vocals. A really cool, kind of spooky, distant storytelling song. And it's one of my favorites on the record.
There's not a lot of ballads either, we should point out, so no one has to worry about that for sure. One of the ones towards the end, though, Think It's Over, kind of brings the organ in. It's very kind of bluesy. So did you try to limit maybe the ballady tracks, or just kind of how things got written?
It just kind of landed that way. We didn't, though personally, I don't necessarily like to do more than one, two if they're both awesome.
Right,
but,
right.
If there was a third ballad that was just a spectacular piece of music, I would say, well, maybe okay. But for me, we had a problem with Mr. Big a couple times where we just got too soft, and the record company was forcing us to try to do another To Be With You, do another To Be With You. We did To Be With You. Come on, bro. So it got ugly there for a little while, but generally I always like the songs, but sometimes it's just too much, And for me, I generally like music that's exciting, that's inspiring, that moves me. Sometimes it's a ballad, but more likely it's something that has a little more energy to it, a little bit more up tempo, and plus I'm built to play live, and the Winery Dogs are built to play live. In a live situation, ballads are nice to bring it down for a dynamic in the evening, but if there's too many of them, man, it turns into a snooze fest. So we do like it. We are always thinking of performing the stuff, where a lot of times guys get in the studio and the tour is the last thing on their mind. They're trying to think hits, where we're thinking, what would we love to play live? What would be a blast to play on stage in front of our friends on a hot, sweaty night? That's more our criteria than trying to squeeze some hit out. So we didn't necessarily get too ballady.
Well, that's the downside of having all those hits that were ballads kind of back in the 80s and stuff, that now you had to play them every night, and you had too many of them. It became kind of a downer.
Well, in all honesty, though, I still love To Be With You, and I loved Just Take My Heart, and what was the Cat Stevens song we did, Wild World. We enjoy playing them live with Mr. Big, and everybody, the whole place is singing along, and there's a sea of smiling faces. So I enjoy that very much. I like when people are pleased. I'm not looking so much at my, precious artistic integrity. Yeah, I have that, but I also love to have people enjoy the night, and if there's a song I play on that people like, and I'm happy to do it live, no matter what. So we always balance it out with things at a show, of course, but that's always possible.
You know what I always find fascinating with you and the people you play with is you're such a dynamic bass player who can play, as fast as anybody, or fill in the gaps, better than really any bass player. But you've had the fortunate luck of playing with, Steve Vai, Paul Gilbert, now Richie Kotzen, and countless others that all are top of the line. So how do you, when you're with a guy like that in the group and they dominate the musical space so much, how do you kind of balance it with that person?
Well, bass is all about the drums, so I don't really put as much attention on guitar players as I do with locking with the drummer to build things for the guitar player to stand, put a foundation on four guitars. Then when there's times that we need a little bit more music, notage, harmonies, interplay, then fortunately, I'm after all these years, I'm at a position where I can usually deal with the guitar player on that drum too. But my first job was always that bass drum, just watching what it's doing and locking in. And then the second job would be what the snare drum is doing. Then we'll get to the toms, and then I'll deal with the guitar player. So it really is my main thing. When I do my bass clinics, I preach this to kids so fervently, trying to get them to that same point of view. They all want to solo. The whole time, hold on. Before there was soloing, there was bass playing. Before, you got to get up on stage if you want to solo, and you can't get up on stage if that's all you're doing. So, for years in clubs, I played in bands where, we played songs, and I played the bass part, and fortunately, developed as something where it became somewhat unique in some people's eyes. I'm very, very pleased about that. But I'm generally about locking together with the drums. And with Mike, it's a joy, because we have a kind of a great ESP. He makes a move, I do the exact same thing at the exact same time, even though we didn't plan it out, and vice versa. I do a move, and he does exactly what I do. So it's a real cool ESP kind of thing that happens on stage. We're always looking at each other like, holy cow, how did you know I was going to do that? And it keeps it fun and interesting, and it keeps it together, because we're doing things together as opposed to counterpoint, or one guy steps back while the other guy steps forward. It's more of it really is an interplay on stage between all of us.
Well, you and Mike both share that ability to be in many bands, work with many people, and I guess over time you've learned to adapt where it can be really fast, right? The getting a change to the other person and that sort of thing. Yeah,
the time spent on stage together is just priceless. It's the most important thing there is. That there's no substitute for it either. You can sit in a rehearsal hall and play. It just does not do the same. Yeah, I think it's equivalent. Maybe 3 months in a rehearsal hall is equivalent to about 2 songs live, for how important that is to be on deck and be watching each other and performing in front of people. So fortunately, we've got to a point with the Winery Dogs. We're already past 100 shows. And that really also did affect us a lot on this record, because we really know each other better. Our ensemble playing has improved remarkably, in my humble opinion. And to write now is a real automatic process. We can just kind of sit down in a room and stuff will start popping out.
That's great. I'm curious, we don't get too much into kind of gear and that type of stuff on these interviews we do here, but I'm curious because your sound's always been really consistent, and you can know it's Billy Sheehan playing bass most of the time. Over the last 10, 15 years or so, have you sort of stayed with the same kind of rig and bass, or do you make a lot of changes from year to year just to see what happens?
Generally, the changes are slow, and some things never change. So there's always one consistent, solid, foundational piece that I can base everything on. Because I remember back in the old days, I just changed my chords one night, and it ruined me for about 3 shows. There were the wrong impedance in it. And I learned never change more than one thing, ever. Because if I didn't know it was the chord, then I would have changed the amp. I would have thought it was the amp.
Oh, that's funny.
So I see guys that go out to go play, and then the next show they try different pickups, and the next show they try another cabinet, and they go, wait. Maybe do like 50 shows without changing anything until you are grooved in, and then, maybe change one thing. But know that every night is different, even if you're on the same stage of the same club. Things are going to be different night to night. So I try to keep as consistent as possible. Basically, it's a 2 amplifier setup, one amplifier doing one thing and another amplifier doing another thing. And that's kind of if anything is the most important aspect of it for live, that would be. But then again, sometimes I play in studios, whatever, with just one input. Just play straight up single pickup bass. But after a while, your hands start to be the signature thing. Anybody that plays, sometimes they get it in 4 or 5 years, sometimes 8 or 10. But eventually your hands have a unique thing to them. And no matter what you play on or what you play through, it begins to sound like you. And so after playing for, I don't even know how many years I played, but it's over 40. So there becomes a built-in thing. Love it or hate it, that's what it is, and it's going to sound like that. So lately I just changed them, got some different heart key cabinets. I had some different heart key cabinets in the last store. I tried a different model now. And I just spent all day yesterday in the rehearsal room setting them up and preparing them and APing them and trying them out and playing through them for hours to get rid of the feel of them. And I think I'm okay to go out there and make this one change on this tour coming up.
Are you guys starting to rehearse yet, or not yet?
Not yet. We're going to start. Richie and I are getting together before we go meet Mike. Just go over some more vocal parts and guitar based things we need to know. Then we go and I always do my homework, so I'll know every song, every new song, and all the old songs completely. So when we go in, all we have to do is kind of arrange what's going to go where. So and we'll be in good shape. But I can't wait until like week 2 of the tour, because we'll be well grooved in by then, and it's going to be very enjoyable to play this stuff live off the new record. We're all excited about it.
That should be just when you guys are down in Florida, around about the 2-week mark, I think, if I was looking at the tour right, which is where I am. So I will definitely be there. And
perfect. You're there at the perfect time.
Yeah, that'll be great. I can't wait. I saw you guys on the last one, and it was as good as anything. So, listen, man, I wish
you for being there.
Yeah, I wish you all the success in the world with the new album. I have no doubt it's going to be a success again, and we'll see you on tour, man.
Excellent. Well, thanks for calling. Thanks for your time. If you see me in Florida, make yourself known, and I'd love to say hello to you when we're down there.
Absolutely, man. That sounds great.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the call today, and thank you for listening to our record.
All right, man. Take it easy. Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks to Billy for the interview. We're going to close with the opening track off of Hot Streak. This is Oblivion. For more information and upcoming interviews, please check with theprogreport.com. Follow us on Facebook, at The Prog Report on Twitter, and download our podcast on iTunes. Thanks.